We'll continue tracking developments now to the big international story we're tracking this afternoon. It is the biggest breach in global aviation since the 9/11 attacks. Russia has now admitted that the passenger jet that crashed over Egypt in October, killing 224, had been brought down by a bomb. Investigators have studied personal belongings, baggage and other remaining pieces of the aircraft from the debris, and concluded that an improvised bomb packed with 1 kg of TNT exploded mid-air. Investigators had said traces of explosives were found in the plane's debris. US officials also suspect that a device planted on Metrojet flight 9268 exploded shortly after the Airbus A321 took off from the resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh. An Islamic State affiliate had claimed responsibility for the deadly attacks. Russia has offered an award of $50 million for any information on the attackers. Russian President Vladimir Putin has meanwhile ordered Russia's special services to focus on finding those responsible behind the deadly attack. The update we're tracking hours after Russian intelligence agencies said that they had found remains of explosives in the debris to suggest that there was in fact a bomb on board that led to a mid-air crash. Russian President Vladimir Putin made an announcement saying that anyone who has any information on the attackers that could lead up to their location and help security agencies arrest them will be given an award of $50 million. This is being called one of the biggest, worst fears in the sky after the deadly 9/11 attacks. The biggest breach in global aviation since the 9/11 attacks. Russia now saying that the passenger jet that crashed over Egypt around the 30th of October, killing all 224 people on board, had been brought down by a bomb. Investigators, after studying the debris, said that an improvised explosive device packed with 1 kg of TNT exploded mid-air. Let's get a word from Smita Sharma, who's with us on a live link via Skype this afternoon. Smita, a huge breakthrough as far as investigations into this case go, because for almost a week there was no clarity.
Well, yes, and initially, in fact, there were claims made by ISIS, remember, which had been dismissed off as saying that were exaggerated claims, really. But now with the Russian spy chief coming on the record and saying that this is a 1 kilogram of TNT explosive that we are looking at, also something that was homemade, it raises serious questions again, though we do not know if this is still the work of ISIS or some other organization owing allegiance to maybe some of the other terror organizations as well. That's the next step in investigations. Question also as to how much, how did so much of material actually come home? Where was it all put together? Where were these homemade devices made? And what is the kind of local support that we are looking at here, really? But for Russia, remember, we have seen those pictures coming out now from the G20 summit in Turkey as well, with Vladimir Putin getting into those discussions with the American President Barack Obama. Russia has very recently, in fact, joined this strikes against ISIS at the moment. But we'll have to wait and watch as to how much of it has really been successful, because if some of the Western press were to be believed, the Russian strikes are hardly, in fact, hit out at some of the ISIS bases.
Right, and Smita, barely within 24 hours, in fact, of that crash, the Islamic State had claimed responsibility, but at that time, strategic experts had dismissed the claim, saying that the Islamic State doesn't have the wherewithal to target a flight at this height, because at that time, they were considering the possibility of a ground-to-air attack. But now, security agencies suggest that there may have been a bomb packed inside, bomb packed with the cargo of the flight.
You know, when we are talking about ISIS, really, we are looking at a kind of a terror organization which is very sophisticated arms, which has a lot of money, and a lot of money that comes in from oil. They have, in fact, control over several of these oil fields in areas, including, of course, Raqqa, where we are seeing the second successive night of French Air Force bombings that have taken place following that Friday carnage here in Paris, where I am at the moment. But for Baghdadi, the ISIS chief, he also, in fact, draws patronage from various regimes. He was popped up, if Edward Snowden is to be believed. There are those reports that how the US had a role to play in the creation of this huge monster called a Baghdadi, like it had a role, like CIA had a role to play even in the creation of somebody like Osama bin Laden in the past. So for all these regimes, for Iran, Russia, Syria, Bashar al-Assad is the dictator in Syria that Americans have been trying to topple off for a very long time now. And in the process, what has happened is a lot of arms, they are accused of the the arms that were shipped in for the opposition forces within Syria, they eventually went off to what we now see within the ISIS forces. So will these countries be able to, in a way, keep aside, their strategic differences? This is a power chessboard that we are looking at, and the kind of games that these countries play, will they be able to come together in these coordinated efforts to fight ISIS is something that will make a lot of a difference.
Smita, thanks so much for that update. Smita Sharma, our deputy editor there, reporting from Paris.
जहाँ तक यादें याद आती रहेगी।